Any objections to the allotted amount for Douglas County? Hearing none, I will go ahead and move on to Jackson County. So again, Jackson County eligible for their program, and staff did not flag any issues with their budget, and I will pause for committee members to review. Nate, for Jackson County, the grant and aid is 8.4%, 8.46%, and the requested amount for the competitive percent requested of the $7 million is 10.09%. Any objections to the allotted amount for Jackson County? Okay, moving to Josephine County, and as a reminder, around conflicts of interest, to abstain from discussion or participation around those conflicts of interest. So Josephine County staff did not find any ineligible components to their program, and did not flag any issues with their budget. I'll pause here for the committee to review. And Nate, for Josephine County, the grant aid was 3.83%, and the percent requested of the competitive grant was 7.5%. Any objections to the allotted amount for Josephine County? Hearing none, I will move into Lane County. They are also eligible, sort of staff did not find any ineligibilities, and did not have any issues with their budget. So I'll pause here for committee review. And Nate, for Lane County, the grant aid request was 9.17%, and the requested percentage of the 7 million for the competitive grant was 8.9%. Okay, any objections to the allotted amount for Lane County? Hearing none, we will move into Lincoln County. Again, staff did not find any ineligibilities in the program, and did not have any issues with the budget. So I'll pause here for committee review. And Nate, for Lincoln, the grant and aid percentage is 1.81%, and the percent requested of a competitive grant is 6.31%. Any objections to the allotted amount for Lincoln County? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and move into Marion County. Staff again found this county to be eligible and did not have any issues with the budget. I will pause here for the committee to review. Nate, the grant aid percentage for Marion is 10.46%. And the percent they requested of the competitive grant is 9.62%. Okay, any objections to the allotted amount for Marion County? Hearing none, I will go ahead and move into Multnomah County, again with the caveat of any conflicts of interest to abstain from discussion or participation. I don't believe we have any right now, but if that does happen, to be aware of that. Okay, so staff found Multnomah County's program to be eligible and did not flag any issues with the budget. So I'll pause here for GRC review. And Nate, the grant aid percentage for Multnomah County is 15.79%. And the amount that Multnomah requested of the competitive grant was 10.7%.
And then what's the percentage of the allotted? I know you're telling us the requested percent, I think. Is the allotted percent different?
Well, yeah, yes, the percentage would be different for the allotted amount. I don't have those numbers available, but we can pull them if we would have to take another break and pull those for you, which we can.
Okay, yeah, that at the next break, would you mind pulling those just for discussion piece at the end? And then I do want to note here that Multnomah County's requested amount, even at the high end requested amount, is significantly lower than the formula. I think you said 15% was the formula, and their requested fully loaded was only 10%.
Right, it's what they requested, and that's 105% of what they were awarded last biennium. And again,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not apples to apples numbers. Formulas for the formula grant, competitive grant doesn't use the formula grant and aid to determine funding.
Right. Which makes it even worse because there's only 21 applicants as opposed to 36 people that we have to divide the funds out of the funding formula for. So that's the point that I'm trying to raise here is the amount of people that we are diverting from prison in Multnomah County here, right? That's a significant amount of burden on their local jurisdiction. So you have jail issue costs locally, district attorney costs locally. They have social workers locally. They have multiple other issues locally that they have to absorb within their costs. And so as we get closer to these recommendations, there's a lot of money that it takes locally for people to stay out of prison. And Multnomah County, across the entire state, supervises over 15% of all people on supervision, right? So for us to only allot 764,000 people with the expectation for continued sustainability, at least for the next couple of years, it's going to be very difficult for them to do that. So that's why I'm raising these points. And circling back for those that weren't here during the morning session when we were talking about some of these things, we know through the executive branch more specifically, the Department of Corrections that conducted the actual cost to supervise people in the community is very different than what the legislature awarded the community corrections entities. So that's why I'm raising this up every time that go through these counties. And Multnomah County, it's a has a very strained resource as it relates to keeping people out of prison. And if we don't keep people out of prison and if we don't fund these different programs through this competitive process or JRP, there's going to be, additional strain on our local jurisdictions. And in Multnomah County, I'm just guessing that they're going to have to come up with other revenue streams and or reductions of services that are not sustainable.
Thank you for that, Nate. Commissioner Gordon.
Thank you. Just want to echo what Nate is explaining here. I think the strains of lack of funding is felt throughout the state, and appreciate the disproportionate amount of work that is needed to serve these folks in Multnomah and other large counties. But I also want to note, if we are looking at impacts throughout the state, and for future discussions to sort of quantify that a little bit more accurately, we should probably also look at the ability of certain counties to supplement funding for these downward departures and other supervisory programs. And one way to do that is to look at permanent tax rates and things like that. There's quite a bit of disparity throughout the state. So just want to put that out there as well.
Thank you for that. So at this time, any other comment, or are there any objections to the allotted amount for Multnomah County?
I would object to the allotted amount. I think it should be more.
I'm going to disagree only because we asked folks to craft their program based on the confinement or the ideas moving forward with personnel only, in line with their previous thing. And Nate, I understand, and I think there's totally some opportunity in the next biennium to reframe this or figure out a better way to do it. I agree with you. It should be based on statistics. I mean, we have the red or the orange, yellow, green, whatever. But I also think that given the opportunity, if we said, okay, now craft your ultimate proposal with no restrictions, these applications would look very different. So while I understand, I don't know that there's a whole lot we can do today, given that we asked them to craft their competitive applications around what we asked them to and within the confines of the amount available.
Yeah, I think Lindsay, I don't want to overstep. Can I go?
Oh, yeah, so let me just make sure. Commissioner Gordon, your hand is up. I just want to make sure that that's from the previous. Okay.
Sorry, it's down.
That's all right. Nate, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so Lisa, thank you for that very thoughtful comment. And my understanding was that during this particular process, everybody was made aware of what their amount cap should be, because I think it was 5% that was clarified before people were able to apply for it. So Multnomah County knew that going into it. So they've only applied for the 105%, I think, right, Lindsay, on the requested amount. So that was within their constraints there and within the rules of the CJC for this application process. And my guess is, any one of these counties could have asked for a whole heck of a lot more had it not been for that 5% cap from, the CJC. And they clarified that and communicated it out to applicants as far as I know.
Yeah, we did, Nate, and we also did a process where we sent a survey and asked applicants how they would like reductions to be made in this process for this biennium. And what we presented today was what the majority of applicants wanted. Was, hey, if there's going to be reductions, this is how we want it to happen. We also presented that to the GRC and asked for input, gave them the 3 options that we sent to the applicants, and asked for the GRC for input of, is this something that you all would like to add to, change? We're going to put it in front of the commission to have it approved. So we did go through that process of gathering input of like, we know we're going to have reductions in the future. How do you want it to look? What are your ideas? How do we do that process for this biennium with the understanding, knowing that it's not perfect, that we don't have good enough data. And part of that, solving that is, hey, in this next biennium, the conversations that we had with counties and GRC and the commission is we recognize there's not good enough data and that we need to engage counties to fill out data so we can have that informed data-centric approach. We don't have it this biennium. We need counties to be on board with us to fill out the data at their level. So we can say, this is how many downward departures are happening in this county. This is how it's affecting the program, the outcomes, the KPIs. It's just not happening right now at the level that we need it to.
And
Yeah,
I was going to hold
that's
off.
fair. Thank you, Lindsay.
And I was going to hold off, but I would say, maybe that is a part of future competitive application process, is that their data goes back how many years? I don't know. But if you're saying that, it's on the counties, we also, I think, need to think about how do we fund the staff to do that. I don't know if it's a huge burden, but okay,
Yeah,
we're never gonna get through this if I don't shut up. So I'm gonna mute for a while.
That's why I'm objecting to the Multnomah County allotment proposal here, is because with their requested amount, it's only 10% of the overall amount of money from the competitive piece, when they're supervising through the funding formula 15% of the entire state. So even at the requested amount, they're way under. And that's kind of my point. And so if we approve the allotted amount, they'd be even further under. And that is just not sustainable for the volume of cases that come through Multnomah County.
Thanks, Nate. So I heard one objection from Nate. I'll ask for any other objections to the allotted amount for Multnomah County. Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and move into Polk County. This is a new applicant. Their program met eligibility as far as staff is concerned, and staff did not flag any issues with their budget. So I'll pause here for GRC review. And Nate, Polk County is their grant aid is 1.57%, and the amount of the 7 million that they requested for the competitive grant is 2.86%. Again, just a reminder around the conflicts of interest. If there is a conflict of interest, to not participate in discussion and to abstain from any other participation. Okay, any objection to the allotted amount for Polk County? Okay, hearing none, go ahead and move into Umatilla County. Staff found this county to be eligible for their program and did not identify any issues for their budget. And I'll pause here for the committee to review. Nate, for Umatilla, the grant aid is 2.19%, and the requested percentage of the competitive grant is 3.71%. Any objections to the allotted funding for Umatilla County? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into Wasco County. Staff found this county to be eligible and did not identify any issues with the budget. I'll pause here for the GRC to review. And Nate, for Wasco County, the grant aid is 0.81%, and the percentage requested for Wasco is 2.96%. Okay, any objection to the allotted funding for Wasco County? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move into Washington County. And again, as a reminder around conflicts of interest, to abstain from discussion or engagement in this portion. All right, so for Washington County, we found the program to be eligible and did not identify any issues with the budget. So I'll pause here for the committee to review. And for the grant aid, Washington County is at 9.16%. And the percent requested of the $7 million for the competitive grant is 5.19%. All right, any objections to the allotted amount for Washington County? Hearing none, we will move into our last county, and then we'll take a break to make sure we have all the information that's been requested for us to present at that time. So for Yamhill County, staff found this county to be eligible and did not have any identify any issues with the budget. So I'll pause here for the committee to review. 8 for the grant and aid. For Yamhill, it's 2.17%, and for the percent requested of the $7 million available is 3.88%. All right, any objections to the allotted amount for Yamhill County? Hearing none, we will go ahead and take a break before we move into motion language to make sure we have the information that's been requested. So just to make sure that we have that information, I believe, Nate, what you're looking for is the percent allotted of the available funds for the competitive grant, correct?
Yes, that would be helpful, and put that alongside the requested the funding formula percentage as well as the requested percentage.
Got it. All right. Was there anything else that that you wanted to see?
Other than the amount of downward dispositional departures?
Other than that, because it's data we don't have that's accurate. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's probably enough for you to come up with at break time. Thank you so much for doing that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nate. All right, well, we'll pause here and we'll take a 10-minute break just to make sure we have all that information, and then we'll come back and discuss that, have discussion around, again, the kind of the guardrails for the competitive grant, what the reduction strategy is, what's been approved, and where there's, again, room, which has already kind of been adopted by consensus for what the GRC would could change in the reduction strategy. So we'll pause here and we'll be back at 2:35. All right, we'll go ahead and start. If I can get committee members to send an emoji or come back on screen, because we will be needing a quorum at this point, moving into the motion portion. Thank you. Thanks, Nate. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So as we kind of move into the motion portion, just again, kind of going back to the competitive grant reduction strategy, what has been approved by the commission? These are the guardrails. We did gain consensus around those 2 points, around the starting point of 90% and then using applicant prioritized reductions, that line 4. So gain consensus around that, and then moved forward with showing you what that then looks like for each county and their allotted amount. We asked the GRC to also review for any ineligibility or unallowable expenses. The GRC had consensus on for each county and around the allotted amounts. So we'll move into what that table, the funding table, then looks like for counties based on what we've gone through. Before we do that, Nate, you're requested, I don't know if you can see that, I'm just realizing the percentages are a little hard to read, but your requested portion here, so the grant and aid, which I will say that percentage is based off of 36 counties versus what the competitive grant is based off of 21 counties. So percentages would be different. It would take some math and reweighting to make that more relevant. But again, this is why it's not apples to apples. The math starts to change quite a bit when you start reweighting things. But here's that information for you, Nate. And then we'll move into the table of what it looks like from what from the consensus we've gained from the committee. Or excuse me, I misspoke, 17 applicants versus 21. 21 is what we thought we would get. All right, so moving into the motion language, we'll pause here and talk about the 2 counties that Nate, that you wanted to talk about, and I believe those were let's see, Columbia County and Deschutes County. So you asked us to put a pin in that to come back to and discuss. So if you'd like to discuss that at this point, we'll go ahead. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, thank you for that. I did put a pin in, I can't remember which county it was when we first started down the road, but I didn't want to continue to be redundant of every slide. So saving this information for now in terms of the discussion. And I would just propose that we take a look at those numbers as it relates to the funding formula. That's consistent with our methodology earlier this morning on those grant review processes, and just wanted to also elevate again that we don't have a lot of metrics to go off of to make these decisions other than the reduction strategy that the CJC put forward for us to work through. Very much appreciate that guidance. And then also wanted the grant review committee to just take a look at maybe some other discussion points as it relates to our decision for the competitive grant. And I haven't done the math on this, but I'm thinking we use some sort of a methodology of like counties who are funded below the funding formula, we give them let's say 100% of the requested amount. Counties within 1%, we give them 90%. of the requested amount. Counties within 2 to 3%, we give 85% of the requested amount. And then counties within 3 to 5 or more percent, we give, 70% of the requested amount. Something like that in terms of just an equitable type of and fair process instead of just looking at the raw numbers and what they have requested and then uniformly making everybody start at 90% or 85% or whatever that number was. I think it's really appropriate for us to right size these applications and our approval process. So just for the grant review committee to um, wrestle with that and talk about those recommendations. Maybe we can put the numbers to them and see what that looks like to make sure that we're under the threshold of the $7 million.
Yes, Ms. Norton.
I just wonder, given that the commission has already approved these strategies, if we even have that ability to do.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I wanted to allow some space for that. So what I'd like to point out is that this is the approved credit reduction strategy. These are the guardrails. This is what we have to follow. Those points where the GRC can make a decision is what the GRC has already gained consensus on, or those two gavel areas. And the GRC earlier in this conversation, we obtained consensus to adopt these decision points. So we move forward with that. That's what you saw for each budget line item, the amount allotted. Otherwise, outside of this approved reduction strategy and those decision points, and then the review for eligibility and allowable expenses, there's not much that well, maybe more specific, cannot change that. We've presented the points where the GRC could make changes or have input, gained consensus from the GRC that you all would adopt this and move forward. So to answer your question, Ms. Norton, no, we can't add to or change this portion of the guardrails that were adopted by that were approved by the commission. And I will note that, kind of going back to the beginning of this process, because we wanted to incorporate the GRC and the expertise and how you all might want to incorporate reductions, we presented this to the GRC and asked for input to provide to the commission to approve. So involved the GRC from the beginning, applicants from the beginning, and this is where we are today, trying to maintain that transparency and expectations for applicants across the process. So GRC informed, commission approved guardrails. Yes, Nate.
Yeah, very helpful, Lindsay. Thank you. I appreciate the order of the presentation that that you gave and got consensus to move forward and things that that kind of set us up for having these discussions. And just wanted to recognize there's additional information that was presented after we had that that robust discussion about consensus and things of that nature. So that's why I'm just elevating some of these other points that we can have additional discussion. So point of clarity though, are you saying we can't make a recommendation outside of the competitive reduction strategy for the CJC to revisit what our recommendation is from the grant review committee?
You don't make a reduction of recommendations, but for instance, one of the things that I heard from you all from the discussion between the committee members is, maybe wanting to look at the funding table, saying, hey, this is the reduction strategy. We are approving the funding table and the allotted amounts. We also want to add a note, kind of like we did with the formula grant, that we recommend this allotted amount with this note to the commission that in future biennia, these things be considered. And so what I heard from the committee members is quantitative components. So getting downward departure numbers and participation from counties as part of the competitive grant process. So adding something like that, adding those points, absolutely. But otherwise, no, not adding to the reduction strategy.
Okay, that's helpful, Lindsay. Thank you. I'm a little unclear why we're even doing this then on this entire day.
Right, so we had still those decision points that we needed GRC input on, and we still needed GRC review of eligibility of the program and any unallowable or allowable expenses. We still needed to have your expertise to say, yes, this program aligns or it doesn't, this line item aligns or it doesn't. And hey, GRC was involved in this entire process, helped form this reduction strategy. And so ultimately is still making that final recommendation to the CJC. And again, to your point, Nate, can still provide that recommendation of like, hey, we've gone through this whole process. We'd like to, for future biennia, make sure that what we're seeing as issues and why we had to come up with this process we're doing today, we want to make sure you all are including for future biennia.
Thank you. Super helpful. And that's why I guess we're continuing with this discussion is that there wasn't a lot of metrics to go off of, to make informed decisions, other than the requested amounts that people put forward through the application process. And yeah, I'd really encourage you as our representative from the grant review committee, if there's a consensus among the other group members to the CJC to give us a little bit more detail or at least prioritize that level of research, so we could make informed decisions. And I would also offer that we do have some information that we can make an informed decision on as it relates to the volume of cases that we supervise in our local jurisdictions. And that is represented through the formula allotment percentiles. And that's why I'm bringing that up, is that it gives us at least an indication of how much prison avoidance that each jurisdiction is having, or experiencing, and the amount of pressure on their local justice system that they have. So, for example, if you have a county that is supervising approximately 1% of the overall population in their jurisdiction, and we give them, let's say, 10% of the competitive grant dollars, right? That's it's disproportionate to the service delivery for the intent of these dollars, right? And I would recommend that our committee really wrestle with that through our recommendation back to the CJC, and potentially revisit for a request for the CJC to revisit those budget reduction strategies to make informed decisions based off of the intent of the competitive grant.
Thanks.
I would love
Thanks,
Nate to call attention to the fact, though, that we would, in adopting that strategy, we would be significantly disadvantaging the more rural communities who have less ability to make those funds up in other areas. So I guess whatever way we go, we're going to disadvantage somebody. But just really advocating that what I'd love to see us do is come together when we're not trying to make final decisions and wrestle this stuff out to give our recommendations back to the committee, just so we can be thoughtful about it. We can reflect on it. But that this has come to us before, and now it's gone to the commission, and we've been at it. The recording says 6 hours. So I would like to reconvene at another time, move forward with these recommendations, and really kind of dig into what you're talking about, Nate, so we can give some folks a heads up for the next biennium. Hey, this is what we're looking at. And so get your numbers in, get that stuff in. I am reluctant to change midstream with our recommendation at this point for this, because these counties all wrote with these caveats in mind. And if you need me to make a motion, I'm happy to. I don't want to do it to cut people off or not have enough time for folks to roll it around. That's where I'm at. I don't think I make good decisions this time of day anytime, but I really would like a separate meeting to kind of understand and really dig in so we can be thoughtful moving forward.
Thanks, Lisa. And I definitely hear that from the committee members is to maybe have another meeting if everybody is on board with that, and gather some of that input that we could implement in future biennia, especially coming with House Bill 3069, using your expertise to inform what would make sense for JRP as a whole, and all grant dollars that are part of it. So I'll pause there for just a brief moment, and then Lisa or Ms. Norton, I'll turn it back over to you, and happy to move forward with a motion. All right, Ms. Norton, if you'd like to move forward with a motion, we'll take that.
I'd move to adopt the competitive grant reductions and fund the allocated or the allotted amounts according to the table presented on the slide, except for Josephine, Multnomah, Polk, and Washington counties, with the caveat that we reconvene and have a more thorough discussion moving forward with the competitive grant fund, and how those recommendations are made.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And Avery, can you take the vote?
Yes. DA Eastman,
So I'll be a yes for this one. I have another thing at 3 I can't miss, and I will be a yes for the 3 of the 4 other motions, and an abstain on the one that is for my county.
Thank
If
you.
I can do that.
I'm not totally sure, but
Not totally sure.
we will have.
Let's go fast.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Norton,
Yes.
Director Gowieran,
No.
Sheriff Morrissey O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
and Chief Troxel.
Yes.
Okay, that passes, Lindsay.
Thank you. And so we'll go ahead, and if somebody can do for the second bullet, the motion for Josephine County.
I will still move for Josephine County.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second.
Gordon.
Thank you. Avery, will you take the vote?
Yes. DA Eastman,
Abstain.
Ms. Norton,
Yes.
Director Gowieran,
Abstain.
Sheriff Morrissey O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
and then Chief Troxel.
Yes.
Okay, that passes.
Thank you. And can we have a motion for Multnomah County?
Also move.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. And Avery, can you take the vote?
DA Eastman,
Yes.
Ms. Norton,
Yes.
Director Gowieran,
No.
Sheriff Morrissey O'Donnell,
Abstain.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Chief Troxel,
Yes.
Okay, that passes.
Thank you. And can we have a motion for Polk County?
Also move.
Thank you.
Second.
And a second. Thank you. Avery, take roll, vote.
DA Eastman,
Yes.
Ms. Norton,
Yes.
Director Gallivan,
Abstain.
Sheriff Morrissey O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Abstain.
and Chief Troxel.
Yes.
Okay, that passes.
Great, thank you. And then a motion for the last one for Washington County.
Okay, back and clean up. Also move.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. And Avery, can you take vote?
Okay, DA Eastman,
Yes, and we made it. That's pretty fast.
Ms. Norton,
Yes.
Director Gallivan,
Abstain.
Sheriff Morrissey O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Sorry, yes.
and Chief Troxel.
Yes.
Okay, that passes.
Great, thank you all. So that completes the review for the competitive grant funding. You all may be familiar with the supplemental round, which is, if, so we have 36 counties. If all those counties don't apply, then we have extra funds. We haven't done that process yet, so our goal is to have another meeting so we can kind of combine meetings here from the input that I'm hearing from the GRC, to gather input from the GRC on what that supplemental funding should be used for, so we can then present that to the commission. So we'll gather input at a later date. We'll combine that with the GRC's request to have a further discussion on competitive grant criteria and what would be helpful in the future. So that'll go into our next steps. Other than that, the commission will meet on September 16th to review and decide on the GRC's recommendations, and awards are expected to go out early to mid-October. Again, supplemental round, we'll schedule another date with the GRC to gather input, and also discuss competitive grant criteria. And that is it for the JRP final application. Thank you all for your time. I know there's a lot of information to get through. Appreciate the discussion and the opinions, and I'll pause here for any last kind of parting thoughts before we close out for the day. Yes, Nate.
Hey, great job, Lindsay, getting through and saving us, it looks like a couple of hours. So good conversation. I appreciate your advocacy and just getting the message back to the CJC. And it is heartbreaking just to know that there's not enough funds to go across the state for this really, really important program and initiative. And so anyway, my heart goes out to all of you because you had to make these decisions, and I'm sure it was a really difficult process. So anyway, thanks for leading us and getting us through this this day today and saving us a couple hours.
Well, thank you, Nate. Always appreciate the discussion and the input. And I think hopefully we're showing that we value GRC input and we try to incorporate it early and often. All right, well, enjoy the extra few hours. Thank you again. And you'll be seeing an email or survey to schedule the next meeting for the supplemental round discussion and competitive grant criteria. So thank you again, and I'll see some of you at the commission meeting. Thank you. Bye.